abandoned ship.
Oh no!
Here we go!
Can I persuade you to join us for a drink? It's a tradition.
Here, here.
Jar Jar, homie, my main man, quickly, before the Separatists attack, get into the escape pod.
Hey! This is escape, and we're the pod.
Welcome back to Star Wars Escape Pod and another episode that we got for you this week with Kirk, our lovely co-host, and myself. And today we are talking about a few different things. Operation Cinder, for one. We got some light news from the literature department at the Disney Lucasfilm Press covering all things High Republic Phase 3. That news is coming straight out of New York Comic Con, which is happening right now over the weekend. So we're going to be touching up on that, as well as a little surprise subject that I want to drop on Kirk because I'm curious to know his opinion, and maybe some Andor discussion in there too. We're going to try and fit all this into the next 40 minutes or so. So it's going to be a packed episode. So be prepared. Let's get into it.
Another happy landing.
All right. Hello, and welcome back, Kirk.
Hello there. It's good to be back.
Good to have you back, and lots to pack in this week, so hopefully we can hit it all. But the first thing I want to start off with for kind of the juicy lore discussion that we have going on this week is Operation Cinder. So that is a big event that takes place after Return of the Jedi, very shortly after Return of the Jedi, which is sort of one of the many evil schemes that Palpatine has going on in his arsenal, which is just in case he died. And we're going to dive right into that in just a moment. The other thing to mention, there is links into the description of every podcast episode. You can find us on YouTube using the handle at SW Escape Podcast. And there are a few links down there. One of them, which I want to mention right now, is a friend of mine does a sticker business and has Star Wars Escape Pod stickers for anyone who uses the promo code listed below, which I think is Escape Pod. So make sure when you put in your order, if you use that promo code, you get a Star Wars Escape Pod logo with your order for free. So, and a percentage off your order. I forget what it is, though. I think it's like 10% or something. But anyway, just throwing that out there. As well as go check out Kai Sabers. And Kirk, you dropped your short film finally, right?
We did. Go over to the YouTube channel designed by Kirk, and you can watch the wonderful tales and adventures of the Three Wise Men.
The Three Wise Men.
Well, it's 10 minutes of adventures. So it's shorter than a Tales of the Jedi episode, but it packs a lot of chicken and heart. I say chicken because you'll have to watch and find out why.
Yeah, it's some good laughs. I'll link that down in the description below as well. Yes, as well as any links that we might go over this week. Let's move on real quick to some headlines coming out of New York Comic Con, which is happening right now, and that totally kind of snuck by me as far as like when this event was happening, because you'd think usually I'm on top of that kind of stuff, but I've been so busy lately. I was like, what? Like New York Comic Con is happening like right now, and obviously I'm not there, so. Just kind of snuck up. But here we are. There is some new announcements coming out of New York Comic Con from the High Republic sort of initiative, which is in its final phase, phase 3, which is the last of the High Republic. They are kind of combining this with a bit of a post-acolyte sort of. I don't know what to call it exactly. It's sort of like now that the show is canceled. I think a lot of this stuff was planned beforehand, so I don't really know if this was supposed to be like a show promoting kind of initiative as well as a lead into season 2 or what, but a lot of this stuff is actually prequel material to The Acolyte, which is kind of ironic seeing as The Acolyte is a prequel to The Phantom Menace. But some stuff coming out of the Acolyte banner as well. So starting things off with a new audio drama coming December 3rd called Tempest Breaker. This is a sequel to Tempest Runner, I believe, and features Lorna D and a bunch of other villains like Marchion Ro that we've seen from through all phases of the High Republic so far. We've seen the continuing adventures from the Marvel series Fear of the Jedi, the High Republic Phase 3 series. There are junior novels coming, A Valiant Vow from Justina Ireland, as well as a young adult reader called Into the Light from Claudia Gray. This is a sort of a spin-off / sequel to Into the Dark, which was a novel that she did in Phase 1 of the High Republic. There's a lot of concept artwork floating around with all these Jedi that we've come to know across the High Republic era wearing all these awesome sort of temple guard masks, which is pretty cool. Those white masks with like the gold flavoring on top. So that's pretty neat. The Acolyte is releasing I think this is a book. It's called The Crystal Crown, and it features Yord and Jeki on the front of the cover. This is set in the era of the High Republic, obviously, seeing as the Acolyte is in that era, and will be a young adult novel featured kind of prior to their deaths, which, spoiler, I guess.
I was about to say, like, the poor Yord Horde. I don't know. As soon as like that scene happened in The Acolyte, it was obviously supposed to be a really sad moment and I was shocked, but then I kind of laughed because I'm like, wow, Disney definitely would not have wanted to kill him off if they knew how much of a following he got.
Oh yeah,
the show.
Oh totally. It would have been so much. See, like in the olden days, at least, call me crazy, but I feel like it was more common to release these kind of books before the shows come out. You know what I mean? Like it kind of helps you develop a relationship with the characters, and I don't know. I mean, like you feel me? Like I don't know what it is, but I feel like
absolutely
kind of a bit late to the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh well, I think it's just one of those things now. It's a good character, I guess, for a lot of people, and then if you just go back and do backstory for him, like what's the point of doing more backstory? Because you just know how brutally and quickly his his life finishes.
They did this exact same thing with two characters that we came to respect in the Rogue One movie called the characters was Chira Inouye and Baze. I forget his last name. It's Baze something or another. But there was a junior novel that came out in 2017, a whole year after Rogue One came out, or I think it was maybe a couple months because Rogue One was Rogue One in summer or was that December?
2016 summer. Well, I mean, it's December. Yeah, December 2016. So that would have been. Is that winter for you?
No, I guess that's technically December is winter for us. Yeah, so. I guess a couple months later, May 2nd, 2017, they released a junior novel called Guardians of the Whills, which is like a prequel novel featuring those two characters prior to the events of Rogue One. And, it's like, okay, I guess people who really like those characters, can explore their past. I honestly do think, though, that it's like the amount of people that would be going after a book like this, prior to a movie would be those niche group of fans that are like, oh, I want to kind of build up my anticipation for this film, right? And then, later down the road, this book is already out, it's in the wild. You're still going to get the same group of people buying this book, like down that avenue. Like, it's like, okay, kids want to read a Star Wars book about these characters, whatever. That never goes away. But I think the timing of release, maybe it's like, okay, maybe a little earlier would have helped, I guess,
But to be honest, like I guess it comes down to a per person and character basis. Like for example, I want to hear more stories about Chirrut and Baze. Is Baze his name? The pair in Rogue One.
Yeah.
Like I personally want to. I would definitely watch like a show or like read a book or something more about them. But like about Yord, like I couldn't really. I don't think I really care too much. And also, I guess the way his death was treated too was very unheroic and it was very kind of brutal and stuff. So I guess my attachment to the character is just not the same versus Chirrut in Andor and versus in Rogue One. So, and I guess the show as well, the Acolyte show versus Rogue One, very different for me.
Here's a question for you then. Like, is it something that maybe you could have seen yourself reading before watching The Acolyte, if this had come out and it was a big marketing thing of like, hey, prepare for The Acolyte, read this book? Is it something that you would have been at least a little more mildly interested, or is it kind of the same, like kind of hard?
If it was like, look, if they marketed The Acolyte and said, this book is a pretty big precursor to the story, then I would definitely have considered it. But then again, like I do say that, and the High Republic novels still do exist, but I haven't had a chance to read those just yet. And I much preferred the High Republic story in Jedi Survivor versus what I did in The Acolyte. Yeah. Even though they were flashbacks in Jedi Survivor. So yeah, potentially I would have, especially for big shows. Like I still haven't read Star Wars Brotherhood, and I'm really keen to read that. But if there were some future shows coming out, like let's say the Mandalorian movie comes out in 2026, like I'll definitely read a pre-novel if there's like a gap between season 3 and this Mandalorian movie. I'll definitely be reading that. That's for sure.
Yeah, I feel you. So that is something that's coming out. The Acolyte, the Crystal Crown. That's going to be releasing July 29th next year, 2025. Wow. So that's, I think, it's a bit late, but whatever.
Wait, what comes out? 2025?
This Acolyte book about Jekki and Yord, it comes out next year in the summer. So that's like way late. That's like a whole year later.
Yeah, that's a bit late.
Yeah,
bit late. I think maybe by then they're counting on people forgetting that Yord got his neck snapped. Yeah, spoilers. Sorry.
yeah. Sorry, guys. Okay, here's another thing, and this is the probably the biggest news. But lastly, Marvel has announced a new series for March 2025. This will be an ongoing series set before the events of the Phantom Menace, and each issue is focused on a different Jedi. So. Along with the classic characters like Yoda, Count Dooku, Mace Windu, Obi-Wan Kenobi, new characters will be introduced along the way. And this is Marvel's first series focusing on the Jedi. So this is pretty interesting. It's brought to you by Emmy Award-winning screenwriter and acclaimed Star Wars comics writer Mark Guggenheim, who also did Han Solo and Chewbacca, as well as the Yoda comics that came out recently. And is drawn by a rising star artist, Madibek Musabekov, I think, is that he did Star Wars and X-Men Red. So, sorry if I'm botching the name there. So it takes place before Phantom Menace, as Star Wars Jedi Knights stars the whole Jedi Order, as we've come to know them in the films, and featuring other great characters. And some of this teaser art is like really, really cool. Like this poster looks amazing. There's Yaddle on the cover, Yoda, Plo Koon, all that stuff. I'm going to send you a picture, Kirk, so you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. But looks really good. I think I'm going to really enjoy this one. I haven't had time to dive into most of the recent comics, but I'm still catching up on a lot of the older stuff, admittedly. Got a big backlog to get through, but I think this is something I can see myself reading on a weekly or monthly basis, however often they drop them. And yeah, so cool news. That is New York Comic-Con news. There is other stuff that's going to be happening over the weekend, which, we'll hit in the next Lightspeed episode, dropping probably next week, I would imagine, or the week after that. And so
seems like the next big Star Wars event is Celebration in Japan.
Yeah,
I think we might get some news out of that.
Oh
out
yeah,
of that one, which I know you're very eager to go to, and you're very excited at how much great value the tickets were.
Oh yes. April 18th to the 20th runs next year, 2025 in Japan. Star Wars Celebration. I don't know which number this is now, but yeah, I to me, I was like, man, 3 days and Star Wars all the way in Japan. I don't know. I mean, I was just less inclined to do it. But the one I went to last.
Well, man, I've booked a Star Wars Escape Pod like mega booth. Like it's like the top tier one, and we're gonna have a panel and everything. Like you have to come now. I've already put down the deposit.
Yeah, if you did that, I would be there. I guess we'll see you there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Otherwise, it'll just be me speaking in this empty booth, and then people can just listen to me rant about about why Basil wasn't in more of the Acolyte.
Oh, jeez. You can buy a pop vinyl for Basil. They have a pop vinyl for Basil.
How much is it?
It's like, $15. Like, who's going to pay $15?
I think it's $14 too expensive.
Yeah. Should be free.
Imagine telling someone that doesn't know much about like Star Wars, like, well, what character is that? It's like, oh, it's a character from the Star Wars show. It's like, oh, what is it though? And then you have to like explain. Well, it's this like character from a Star Wars show that wasn't very well received, and he's in like 5 minutes of screen time across like a 6-episode show, and he sniffs and he finds bad guys, and that's why I have him on my desk.
He sniffs and he snorts and he finds the bad guys. Yeah,
that's what he does. That's Basil for you.
That's Basil in a nutshell. So let's see. I got that's our headline. That's our main headline for today. I got one small sort of just thing to mention here. This is something I teased on a tweet earlier this week. I don't know how many people saw it, but yeah, I just need to run this by you. Okay, this is like the surprise subject that I wanted to bring up.
Here we go. I'm excited.
So this is why also I can't believe the build up that I've been leading up to this subject. Okay, so why Fast and Furious and Star Wars are so alike, and I think
what
I think you like
that was not on my cards at all.
I knew it.
Guess of a few other things, but not that.
I knew it. Yeah. So okay. So would you say that this sounds crazy to you?
Look, I'm going to have to dig a little deeper here and understand, where you're coming from. So
okay,
it sounds a bit strange. Yep.
So I'm just going to rant for like 2 minutes as I run through all my bullet points. Okay. But I just want you to take in all this stuff, and I want to know how mind blown you are at the end of this. Okay. Okay. All right.
Okay.
So
I'm a sponge.
Okay.
Here we go.
Here's my spiel. Okay. So why Fast and Furious and Star Wars are so alike? At the core, each of these film series is about family, the relationships within a family. Ever since Fast 9, both series of films are now also referred to as a saga. Fast 9 titled The Fast Saga. With Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, we also use the term saga a lot more. In each of these series, we see betrayal, death of loved ones, resurrections, and a character named Han, who dies, and then later in a sequel comes back in some form with pure will of bad writing. Both series feature a big love and appreciation for fast vehicles. Whether it be cars or spaceships, Lucas loves his cars, all right? His first movie being American Graffiti, and had a personal love of NASCAR and professional racing growing up. So that's also why Episode 1 features a big pod racing event for a good section of that movie. The main character, who is a mechanic, is pretty consistent across both sagas of movies, Fast and Furious and Star Wars. The character of Brian O'Connor, who later betrays Dom, who was like his brother. What quote do I need to remind you of? Need I say more? It's also official now that both sagas feature characters that went to space. Yeah.
Wait, what? In Fast and Furious,
Yes.
They go to space?
In Fast and Furious 10, they go to space. Yes.
Oh, come on. I haven't seen Fast and Furious. How do they go to space? What, does Vin Diesel, get so bald that, he needs to go to space to get a suntan or something?
You just got to watch the movie
What?
to have your jaw hit the floor. I mean, it's okay.
Oh my God,
it's a little ridiculous.
I just searched Fast 10 space.
Yep.
Fast X. Is that what it is? Is it Fast
Fast X? Yep.
And oh God.
That's another thing.
Oh dear.
That's another thing. With the 10th movie of the Fast and Furious franchise, they are now onto the Roman numerals that Star Wars uses for their episodes. Also, both sagas have had the reputation that it's now had too many movies made. Now, that's debatable if you ask Fast and Furious fans or Star Wars fans whether or not their favorite franchise has had too many movies made. Well,
clearly at Fast and Furious 10 is not enough being made. There needs to be more Fast and Furious movies.
Dude, you need 20.
Star Wars should just quit while it's ahead. I mean, I think we need to decanonize 6 of the 9 movies. It needs to bring it back. Fast 10, I think they've got another 20 at this stage. If they go into space, interstellar travel is what comes next.
Exactly. So let's go a bit deeper, okay? Let's dive a bit deeper into this. In KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic, you play as a character who has lost their memory and has had been a good guy, and then a bad guy, and then a good guy again. And then the choice is kind of yours in the game. That all reminds us of a character by the name of Letty, who apparently dies, comes back, has no memory that she's working with the bad guys and was a good guy before, and then has a redeeming story arc in the film. And it just reminded me a lot of Revan's story from KOTOR. You know what I mean? It was just kind of there for me. It's fitting the pieces together. It's that character is very similar to Revan. Also, every saga needs an idiot, okay? Roman Pierce is essentially Jar Jar Binks of the Fast and Furious franchise. All right? Tej.
Oh my God.
Tej is a little bit like C-3PO, and Cypher is a little bit like Palpatine. Never seems to die, always pulling the strings of all the villains that we've seen in the series so far. She's like the top of the chain in the Fast and Furious franchise, which is, the big bad villain, what I think they're kind of leading towards in the finale. Each saga has spin-off movies, which didn't do great at the box office. Hobbs and Shaw, anyone? All right. Solo. Okay. Each saga has had heist plots. We saw a heist plot in Solo. We saw a heist plot in Fast 5, which those are the two that come to mind at least. Not to mention the death of beloved actors in the franchise who were recreated using CGI. We had Princess Leia, Grand Moff Tarkin, and Brian O'Connor, all in one little nice little group there being recreated with CGI, actors having passed away. Each series has had 11 movies with 1 million more well on the way. And last but not least, each of those respective sagas has a theme park ride in the USA on both the East and West coasts.
There's a Fast and Furious theme park ride?
Yes. Yeah. At Universal Studios in the East Coast and the West Coast. I think it's called Supercharged or something like that. It's awful. It is awful, dude. This ride is so bad. And mind you, the Star Wars rides are pretty good.
I just found the top thing that just came up was this Reddit thread that said Fast and Furious ride is the single worst amusement park ride ever. The single worst amusement park experience of my life.
Dude, all you need to do is look up a picture of the poster on Google Images. Just type in Fast and Furious Supercharged, and you'll see the poster and know exactly why it's bad. All right. There's a picture of Dom hanging off a helicopter, surrounded by explosions. Yeah.
This looks like it's I mean, for a mid-2000s treat.
Oh yeah. So
I love how the poster is Vin Diesel is supercharged. Michelle Rodriguez is supercharged. Tyrese Gibson is supercharged. Wow. Sign me up for more. I can't honestly. What is with capitalism here? This is when capitalism goes too far. I'm all for a good, solid amount of capitalism, but this is too much.
Too much. Yeah. Anyway, that is my spiel. I've been dying to get that out for ages. I feel like I've been dropping hints back with Blake, back with with you. Speaking of which, Blake will be coming back pretty soon. Our weekly listeners have probably noticed, but it's funny to me because like I've just been thinking to myself, man, like this series is so like I love them both, right? And I'm not a diehard fan of the most recent Fast and Furious films, but it is like I have a love for the franchise, and yet it's just weird that they're so similar in so many unexpected ways, and I just had to compile a list to really figure out why, and it was a way longer list than I anticipated or hoped for, to be honest, because you think you have some variation in your hobbies, right? Until you kind of put them all side by side, you're like, hey, wait a minute, this is kind of the same.
You know what though? The funny thing is that now that you've mentioned these, because I've only watched up until Fast 7, the last one with Paul Walker, I think it was.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that Star Wars is more believable in terms of reality than Fast and Furious at this stage.
that's weird, right? Like, it is weird. I mean,
do you know what we need? All we need now is J.J. Abrams to direct a Fast and Furious movie. That's and then they're pretty much the same thing.
You know, he's not far. I mean, J.J. Abrams directed Mission Impossible 3, so that's not too far off. I mean, I feel like he could totally direct a pretty good Fast and Furious movie, because as much of I don't want to call myself a hater, but I mean, I'm pretty critical when it comes to Force Awakens. And yet I'm a huge fan of Mission Impossible 3. It's not that I don't like JJ's movies. It's just like,
really, are you critical of The Force Awakens? I don't think we've ever. This is the topic for another day, but that's fascinating. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, I just have lingering negative feelings towards what I was hoping for, and then what this trajectory got set off on. This due to that movie. Anyway, yeah, a conversation.
You attribute to that movie? Interesting, yeah, because my favorite J.J. Abrams movie is Star Trek Into Darkness. I love that movie so much.
That is a great movie. Yeah.
And I'm not a huge Star Trek fan, so but that one's fantastic. But yeah, that's all. Fast and Furious needs. It needs more. It needs more J.J. Abrams, and it needs. That's it, and then it's pretty much. It needs a lightsaber of some kind. I think once they figure out how to get like a lightsaber in, imagine what's that guy's name? Not Vin Diesel, the other Jason Statham.
Oi, I've got my lightsaber. You want me to take him out? Don't mess with my son. If you do, Bobby's gonna come back, and I got double lightsaber.
Yeah, and then we're pretty much there.
Yeah.
Sorry, I apologize in advance in post thought for everybody that had to listen to my Jason Statham impression, but just had to.
Well, they need to
get a taste for it.
You need to bring in Vin Diesel, who's got a lightsaber. Go like,
hey, I added some NOS to my lightsaber. It's extra long now.
That's not the only thing that's extra long. My love for family is extra long.
Mighty fine line there, sir.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then, do you know what? Do you know all that Star Wars needs is to be more like Fast and Furious is the end scene. They need to be gathered around in Los Angeles having a barbecue. That's what they need.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean,
which is pretty much the end of Return of the Jedi. They're all having a big barbecue and celebration. So
like Dom's
they're
house,
both the same thing.
Dom's house in the first movie is basically the Mos Eisley Cantina. I mean, it's just a wretched hive of scum and villainy. Like the whole thing,
It pretty much is.
You can have any brew you want, as long as it's a Corona. He doesn't like you very much. I don't like you either.
Hey kid, put that glass of blue milk down and grow up and come drink this Corona while I drive my Chevy into the wall because I'm drunk. I don't know. Is that how Vin Diesel talks?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, close enough.
I am Groot.
Yeah. All right, so let's change gears here, and we can revisit this Fast and Furious Star Wars thing down the road, because for some reason I just love talking about it. But All right, so you have a real quick thing to bring up here, and then we can get to the juice, which is now I think our time has shrunk, but it's not that long anyway, hopefully. So you mentioned earlier off air that you had come across some potentially spoilery images online for Andor season 2. So I'll hit the bell here, and
yes, I'll keep this one quick. I'm very excited for Andor. I saw a couple of pictures of Andor, obviously, Diego Luna's character. I need to get these characters' names up because I can't remember all of them. But it was one of my favorite shows from last year. I saw a couple stills of Vel and Deirdre as well. Nothing of Kino Loy just yet, and nothing of Stellan Skarsgård back. But the most interesting thing is that I saw a still of, again, spoiler, last chance, of Ben Mendelsohn in a white robe, and it was something that I'm very familiar with Rogue One, and I'm very sure it's not something from that. So yeah, I'm very keen for Andor to come out, and those are stills I saw. And Ben Mendelsohn, I think Orson Krennic is such a good character, and I'm keen to see how this gets even closer and closer to the events of Rogue One, which I think we're getting a little bit closer now. But it'll be a good time.
Wow, awesome! Yeah, that's cool. It's good news to know that Ben Mendelsohn is coming back. I mean, when Rogue One starts off, like that is a prequel scene that's like, well, a bit of a flashback scene that kicks off the movie, and then we flash forward, I guess. So it is in chronological order, but
I know.
But it's interesting.
I'm quite sure we're going to get some Death Star stuff. Like if they ended the post-credit scene in Andor had the Death Star material, so I think we'll get some more of it. And we might even see Galen Erso. That'd be nice.
That's what I was going to say. It's like I think that kind of gives us a clue. Like you can't have Ben Mendelsohn in a Diego Luna show, which this character has not met Ben Mendelsohn's character yet, and not have Galen Erso. Like it's a bit of a, like the equation isn't really there. It's like you can't have Ben in a prequel to Rogue One without having his, counterpart being Galen Erso, right? Like there's got to be some story there, which they're willing to tell.
Do you know what I love? Like if Vader, for example, or Palpatine shows up in Andor, I'm actually more excited to see like Galen Erso and Ben Mendelsohn's character come back than I would be for a cameo like that. And I think that is a good indication of like how strong I feel for the show, but also how strong I personally think the characters are. And you don't want to just hang a show off cameos and clickbait and all that type of stuff, but having those characters in there makes me quite excited. Obviously, Ben Mendelsohn I've seen, but I don't know about Galen Erso just yet.
Yeah. That's fair. I'm looking forward to. Here's a show. I don't know if you've seen this show or not. Have you seen Chernobyl?
No, I haven't. But that's very high on my list. I got to see that.
All right, yeah. So you got to watch it because what's his name? Skarsgård is in it. What's his first name again? I always blank on his first.
Stellan Skarsgård, he played Luthen.
Yeah, he played Luthen, who's everyone has nothing but great things to say about his monologues and his acting and all that. He is such an intense guy, he plays an intense character in any show he's in usually, and I just feel like Chernobyl stood out to me as far as like a well-received show in part because of him, right? Like he was such a great actor in that show that show did incredibly well. It's hard to imagine a show like Andor without a character like Stellan Skarsgård. I mean, he just does such a great job at Luthen. He really, in a way like Diego Luna, kind of carries Andor in such a positive light, right? Like with how he just kind of, his presence in the show and how he just does things. I mean, it's just such a great character, great storytelling. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more from him, as the show goes on, whatever ends up happening to his character. I think it'll probably be a tragic end that we all kind of think is probably coming for him. But I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's going to be such a cool season to watch. So
Yeah, and comparing it back to my comments on the Acolyte before, like all these characters we know are mostly dead. Like Galen Erso's gone, Jyn Erso's gone, Andor's gone. Sorry, spoilers for Rogue One, but I'm sure if we're talking about Andor now, you know.
Yeah.
But I think it shows that like we do care about these characters, and even though we know what their fate is, we're still very keen to see them.
Totally. Yeah, thank you for that. All right, let's dive into the meat and potatoes here. How long you got? Like, what we got? Like 6 minutes, 10 minutes?
I've probably got 6 minutes, unfortunately, so we'll get into meat and potatoes now, and then we'll do part 2 maybe later.
Yes, sounds good. I'll sprint through this. All right, so Operation Cinder. This is, I can keep this short because it is semi-relevant to a new comic book series that has recently been coming out. The second issue came out this week, which is called Battle of Jakku, Insurgency Rising. This is a story that takes place after Return of the Jedi. I'll just run through a little bit about Operation Cinder and then kind of say why it's important. So Operation Cinder was the code name assigned to the orbital bombardment campaign conceived by the Emperor himself. Its purpose was to serve as punishment against the Empire for their inability to prevent his demise. Following the untimely demise of the Emperor during the Civil War, particularly during the Battle of Endor in 4 ABY, his posthumous instructions were relayed to loyal Imperial officials through the deployment of Sentinel messenger droids. So these were like robed droids with like a hologram face of Palpatine on them. The targets of the operation encompassed various planets across the galaxy, which had allegiance to the Empire or involvement in open rebellion. Among targeted worlds were Burnin Khan, Kando Vant, Abadindo Comenor, the Nacronus, notably Vardos, which was a world renowned for its unwavering loyalty to the Empire, and you go there in the Battlefront 2 campaign. Also Naboo, who was the birthplace of Palpatine, was included in there. So despite the successful defense of Naboo during the Battle of Theed in this event, Vardos suffered catastrophic devastation as a result of these satellites which were deployed, leading to this massive ecological disruption, which caused storms to essentially wreck the planet. Operation Cinder served as the initial phase of the Emperor's contingency plan, which involved the reconstruction of the Empire in the unknown regions, while Sidious's clandestine revival was underway on Exegol. The meticulous plan, however, was undermined by the actions of Grand Admiral Ray Sloan, who executed the Emperor's protege, Fleet Admiral Gallius Rax, during the Battle of Jakku in 5 ABY. Furthermore, the widespread destruction caused by Operation Cinder resulted in the defection of Iden Versio and Del Miko, Imperial Special Forces commandos belonging to Inferno Squad. To the New Republic's Defense Force, despite these setbacks, the contingency effectively ensured the revival of the Empire and the First Order. The legacy of the New Republic kind of began there. But this story's had appearances and everything. Battlefront 2, the Shattered Empire comic book miniseries, which was part of the Journey to the Force Awakens literature program, which great example of how you do literature that leads into a movie. Alphabet Squadron series, which is a trilogy of novels. The new Battle of Jakku comic books. Star Wars Squadrons, the video game. Also, The Mandalorian Season 2. There was a mention in Chapter 15 called The Believer. This Operation Cinder thing.
Mention of it.
Yeah, did you? I'd like just kind of like my one question to you before we kind of wrap up why event is important. Like, do you know much about Operation Cinder, Kirk? And like, if you like, what do you know, and how? Like, what has been made you aware of it, kind of thing.
Well, the two things for me, and it's gone like separate ways with some people that play the game. Is like when I played Battlefront 2 on opening day, like that was like one of my favorite storylines, just seeing like what the Empire like was prepared to do on their own civilian population. I thought that was a very interesting turning point, and I guess some people didn't like how Iden Versio and the crew like flipped sides at that stage, but I quite enjoyed the story. But yeah, my favorite mention of Cinder in general has to be the Mandalorian episode. I think just that very simple conversation about burning con and the conversation between, well, obviously Mando and the I've already forgotten Bill Burr's character's name.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's probably my favorite like conversation piece throughout the entire two seasons or 3 seasons, I guess now of Mando. I think it was just great, and it shows how much I guess PTSD and regret that the Bill Burr's character had. And honestly, it also proved that like within 5 minutes, you can have a better backstory than what unfortunately Finn got treated for in the 3 movies of the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
All attributed to Operation Cinder for that conversation.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I love that we're going back to this story because, like I mentioned, like there was this initiative going into The Force Awakens with this literature line called Journey to The Force Awakens. And then the movie came out and, it really glossed over a lot of the events that happened in that span between, Return of the Jedi and the Battle of Jakku, which was 1 year later. And it's nice to go back in and re-explore that because a lot of story was lost to the vagueness of not wanting to reveal details about key characters like Luke Skywalker or Leia or Han or whatever. And this Battle of Jakku comic series that's going to be released in multiple sets of miniseries and like subtitles kind of thing. I think it's going to be going for more than 8 issues in some form. Is going to really be exploring this era in a new light, and I just really appreciate it. I just wanted to bring awareness to listeners about Operation Cinder and, kind of what it is and that it is this real big turning point for the saga and for the story. And, so anyone who's played Battlefront 2 or Squadrons might know a thing or two, maybe dive into some of these comic books like Shattered Empire, the miniseries, or the new Battle of Jakku series. Novels being the Aftermath trilogy as well as the Alphabet Squadron trilogy. All great places to start, as well as that little tidbit that they put in The Mandalorian that you appreciate so much, Kirk. I mean, great stuff to explore. So that's pretty much all the time that we have to dive into this. And maybe at some point we can revisit this conversation after the Battle of Jakku comic book series has had its run. But
yeah, absolutely.
Just wanted to throw awareness out there for everyone. And then now we wrap things up for the week. But man, that was a packed episode. So
it was. We'll continue some of these things maybe on the next one.
for sure. Kirk, I know you got to run. Thank you so much for hopping in, having this chat, and we'll catch you in the next one or the next 2.
Absolutely. I'm gonna dash over to Dexter's Diners now. So come grab a donut with me later.
Awesome. All right, buddy. May the Force be with you. All right, and a big thank you to our listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. We've got links in the description below for all those things, including the news on the Lucasfilm Press from New York Comic Con. Maybe stay tuned for the weekend when it comes to all the new headlines and stuff coming out of that event, because they could be dropping more tidbits along the way. I would not be surprised if they had updates on Skeleton Crew, which is the next live action show coming out in, I think it's November or December. And, people are really looking forward to that, comparable to the old Amblin movies, E.T., that kind of vibe, young kids, just a very fun show. So hopefully we'll have a good time going through that, in the coming weeks. But definitely check out those links, as well as, Jedi Knights is going to look cool. That's a comic book series I'm looking forward to read. We could really use some subscribers on the YouTube channel, so definitely go and hit us up on there. Hit the bell icon for notifications when it comes to new episodes and all those things that we can release on YouTube. AI, Star Wars music, glorious lyrics on some of those songs. So if you want actual tracks emailed out to you, send us an email, swescapepodcast@gmail.com. It's in the description below, as well as our Twitter account, SWSK Podcast. That's our handle. Be sure to send us your feedback on Spotify. Answer the polls if you're using Spotify as an app. We got stuff down there for you to kind of interact with us and join the Discord. great way to just stay in the loop, keep in touch, send us a hello. May the Force be with you. We'll see you in the next episode of Star Wars Escape Pod.